All right, people, it is our last Patreon exclusive live YouTube stream of 2017. I just tweeted out the link and I told people that we're going to let anyone join that is at any level of patronage because this is the last one of the year. One of the things we've been trying to figure out, which I've mentioned on a few of these streams before, is how do we increase the engagement here on Patreon, because we have built such an amazing audience of people here. I know that for a fact, and I'm not just saying it because I've spent all day today, as I do on Patreon Reward Day, talking to you guys since 8 a.m. this morning. Wrapping up now, it's 7 p.m. Pacific, so that'll be a cool 12 hours in a row of talking to you guys. Shared thoughts with people on end-of-year feelings, just how's everyone feeling about politics and about life. A lot of people are trying to do like a little bit of an online shutdown for the rest of the year. I want to tell you guys a little bit about how we're finishing up the year and some plans going forward and some cool things going on. A few people in our chats today have mentioned that I look a little tired. We had our Rubin Report holiday party last night where we had our crew and some of our part-timers and some friends of the show like Blair White and Colin Moriarty and some boyfriends and girlfriends, etc. We had our party last night, which we did here at the house. And I don't know what happened, but I was like wasted, like legitimately like college style wasted. We were drinking water, and maybe I ate a little weed candy or something, but drinking water. We were drinking wine. Man, I'm beat. And we wrapped up at about 3:30 a.m. My first hangout was at about 8 a.m. and I think I might have still been drunk. So to Brian, who I spoke to at 8 a.m., I think I was a little drunk at the time. I am no longer drunk. I'm just tired. But it's all good, and I'm excited to be talking to you guys. So I know some people watch these things live, and then some of you guys will watch afterwards. But I will gladly answer any of your questions as patrons, and especially on this last one of 2017. I want to share a couple of thoughts with you on a whole bunch of different things. So first off, right now we are in the middle of YouTube week. This is our third ever YouTube week where we do 5 shows in 5 days with 5 different YouTubers. We did a live stream with Bunty King yesterday. Today we put up our interview with Jacqueline Glenn. Tomorrow is Some Black Guy. On Thursday, that's his YouTube name, not the way I'm describing him. On Thursday, we've got Neil Koltakar. And on Friday, we've got I'm Rucka. It's a really interesting mix of people. And what I particularly liked about this round of YouTube week is that it seemed to me that all of these people were like leveling up their game. Like these are creators of, some of them have, Rucka I think's got around 800,000 subscribers. That's more than we have. Some of them, Bunty has about 50,000. Everyone's sort of in the mix, whatever that is. But what was nice is that I could see they're all ready to like be bigger piece of this conversation that everyone's having, talking about all this, the free speech stuff, the new political alignments. How do we make sense of what's going on? So anyway, so that's what we did this week. Next week, we've got an episode which we shot already. He's the former CEO of National Public Radio. You may have heard of, he has a book out now. It's called Republican Like Me. Basically, he was, it's about his life in the sort of liberal, lefty, progressive bubble for his whole life, growing up in DC, being the head CEO at NPR, and then what it was like when he finally realized that he was in a bubble, and he spent a year on the road meeting Republicans and conservatives and people of faith and all of this, and learned that they actually weren't that terrible. So we had it'll be a sort of a nice way to cap the year off. And then Christmas week, it's the first time in probably 4 years of doing this show, or at least certainly in the 2+ years of doing it independently. We're not putting up a new episode. We're doing a little retrospective thing with 12 of my my favorite interviews of 2017. There are 12 Days of Christmas. We're doing 12 Days of Rubin Report. So we'll post that. And my feeling on that was just, I think we obviously we could use, my guys have been working really hard and I've been traveling like crazy, and we could use a couple of days off around the holidays, but also I just don't think people need more politics all the time. Certainly not during Christmas for a few days around that. So I hope whatever you guys are doing during the holidays will be fun and relaxing and enjoyable. By the way, all right. So just real quick, if you're just joining, so normally this YouTube live stream, I believe off the top of my head that this is at the $15 level. We're letting everyone in first night of Hanukkah. There you go. So everybody, whether you're $1 or a $500 level member, we are letting everybody in today, whether they're watching live or in post when this goes into the catalog. All right, so first off, I just have to do a general, and I already shot my direct message for next week. I just want to do a general thank you directly to you guys, the patrons. You guys absolutely make this show run. Patreon is the bulk of our income. It is the baseline that allows us to know what we're doing, to make decisions the right way. And this year alone, I got several offers for more money than we're making now to join networks, but I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to lose my independence. And the only reason I could do that is because of you guys. So I just humbly thank you guys. Hopefully you're proud of the products we're creating, and we plan on growing it in the next year, hopefully growing the team and all that stuff. And that is because of Patreon. And obviously we have a couple ways that we bring in revenue. And now that monetization on YouTube is settled, at least, it's definitely not where it was, but it's basically settled. We have ads on the podcast and a few other things. I think we can start growing again properly in the new year. So I'm excited for that. And I want to, change a few things we're doing and maybe add some things and all that good stuff. Okay. So that's just really a thank you. You guys make this happen. And just a quick example of that, that some of you guys know, is that when we did our episode with Ayaan Hirsi Ali, we had to rent a studio in another state, which I had to fly my guys there, hotels. We had to rent a studio. The whole operation cost us around $6,000. Those videos were demonetized by YouTube because obviously we talked about radical Islam and some other hot button issues. So we didn't make a dime, or I think maybe at one point one of them got remonetized. We made $20 or something. It cost us about $6,000 to do it. I'm happy to take a loss on something like that because it's worth it to talk to Ayaan, and that's what you guys support this for. In February, we're going to go up to Stanford and we're going to interview Thomas Sowell. Even if it monetizes, the monetization never will get us to around that $6,000 of taking it on the road and renting a studio and all that. So again, this is because of you, 100% because of you, and you've given me the luxury to not have to take deals that I don't want to take. So I thank you guys for that. All right, enough about technical stuff, although I'm happy to answer any technical stuff or monetization stuff or anything like that. All right, sorry I missed our chat today, Dave. It's morning here in Asia. Dog Jones. Oh, that's my buddy Dog, who was a part of our one-on-one chats. He wasn't there today. I closed my eyes for like 15 minutes, Dog, if you're watching this now, while you were, that was like the only time of break that I had all day. So I thank you, and I hope you're having a good trip in Asia right now. Any word on getting Milo back on the show? He's actively using his YouTube account now to conduct interviews and is down here in Australia promoting his book. Local SJWs have been going nuts. It's glorious. So I saw that like there are people protesting, and that one of the places that Milo spoke at, there was $50,000 worth of damage, which the government wants Milo to pay for, not the people who did the damage, Milo to pay for it. That's actually nuts. I did see Milo about 2 weeks ago at a speaking gig I did in Palm Springs. Oh, and actually I'll be at my last thing of the year actually is on December 21st. I'll be speaking in Palm Springs again, actually. But anyway, I saw Milo in Palm Springs. We chatted for a little bit. Yeah, I would have him back on the show. There's a lot of attachments to him right now that it's just hard to make like what's going on. It's just honestly hard to tell what's going on with him right now. But you guys know Milo. Look, he's a provocateur who, when he is at his best, has the intellectual chops and the wit to go against anybody and go against everybody, and he's not afraid of anybody. So I'd be happy to have him in here again, and we will make that happen at some point for sure. Dave, are you going to do a duet with Rucka? What would we have to pay to get that? I've done a few little things for his channel before. My interview with Rucka is up on Friday, and I'll tell you this, that out of the 5 people that we just did for YouTube Week, Rucka is really ready to, I was saying how they all want to level up. He really wants to get, I think, into the political world. And the interview really reminded me of my first interview with Colin Moriarty, when I didn't really know who Colin was, and we were doing YouTube Week, and I thought he was going to come on and talk about video games, and I was very excited to talk about Sega Genesis and whatever. And he turned out to be a great political mind and a really interesting guy, and he was openly conservative, which seemed crazy for a young guy that looks like him in San Francisco, but really knew his mind politically. Rucka really, I think, is ready to make his jump into a wider political world too. I don't want to give away too much, but how do I not give away too much by saying this? He's got some interesting thoughts on objectivism, which is the philosophy laid out by Ayn Rand, and he really likes those ideas and puts them into action in his own life. He challenged me a bit, which I thought we were going to talk more about video games and things like that, so I wasn't quite ready for some of the things we were going to talk about. He challenged his curiosity with people like me and Sargon and the classical liberals. He said, well, in effect, he was saying, look, you guys have made your point about the left, but unless you have some other group to stand with right now, all guys are going to get sucked into the far right or the identitarian right. I don't particularly agree with that, but we had an interesting discussion about it. And the guy knows his mind, and he's clear and bright, and he's funny. So I think you're going to really dig it. Do you have any YouTubers that you would recommend? I love talking to these 5 this week. They're really great. Today it was Jacqueline Glenn. Oh, no. Yeah, today was Jacqueline. Check out Some Black Guy. I just donated to him on Patreon, actually. And he's a good guy and a smart guy and a fun guy. And we talked about all sorts of stuff. Did you hear about Tim Pool pulling out of Kilroy? No, I haven't heard about that. If you know why, let me know, or I'll reach out to Tim. They've been asking me to go, and I know a few people have reached out to me. Right now, my schedule is so bananas that when is it? It's in March or something, or in April. I just don't know that I want to commit to something so early on, just because I have so much going on. But it does seem like something interesting is happening there. What I would be a little leery of, and this is just between me and you guys, what I would be a little leery of is when you get all of these YouTube types into one spot, there's always a desire for clicks and jamming cameras in people's faces and, fighting with people so that you can live stream it and all that. And that's not really the game that I'm interested in playing in. The concept of Kilroy, which is this getting all the YouTubers together in the name of free speech. Of course, I love that. Christina Hoff Sommers just told me that she's going to be the keynote. So let me say for me, TBD, to be decided. We shall see. Let's see. Tim Pool, apparently the Kilroy people wanted Tim Pool to sign a 3-year NDA and a non-compete, which he thought was really weird. A 3-year non-disclosure agreement to go to an event on free speech and a non-compete? I don't even know what would a non-compete be, that you're not allowed to go to other free speech events? That seems completely insane. That seems completely legit. I mean, I have no idea. But let me find out more about that. Are you going to see Star Wars tonight? Are you going to be talking Star Wars tonight? We can talk a little Star Wars if you want. Obviously, Thursday, it's coming out. I got 6 p.m. first viewing in Los Angeles tickets. When I did Force Awakens, we did it at the famous Chinese theater in Hollywood. And I waited out there with the Jedi and the Sith and the bounty hunters and the whole thing. This year we're going to the local theater by my house, but it's a nice ArcLight. If any of you are familiar with ArcLight, it's a chain of nice theaters throughout Los Angeles. We got great seats. The second that thing came out, remember when the tickets went for sale at Monday Night Football, 2 months ago? I mean, I was on there already. We had computers, iPads, phones, making it all happen. So yeah, 6 o'clock showing. I'm super psyched. I have a feeling it's going to be great. I had a feeling that Force Awakens was going to be great. It did not let me down. I think most of you know I loved Force Awakens. Yes, a little derivative, but considering they had so much to do to reboot that thing, they did it beyond successfully. I think it's probably the 3rd best of all the Star Wars, actually. Anyway, so I have just incredibly high hopes for this one. There's every reason when you're doing trilogies that the second one is the darkest and most interesting, because generally the bad guys kind of have to win, and then that gets reset in 3rd. But who knows what stops they're going to pull out? I'm super excited. Who do you have winning the NBA Finals this year? I mean, I don't see any way really that you can go against Golden State still. I mean, I think that they're just like an endless machine of scoring and defense. And even I watched a little bit of the game the other day, and Steph wasn't playing, and even without Steph, they just look great. They're just a scoring machine. And but look, Cleveland's playing incredibly well, right? And LeBron is just off the charts. I think he's averaging like 38 and 8. Reminds me of back in the day. But I think for now you gotta go Golden State. So proud to be your patron, Dave. Thank you. Ever heard of Nassim Nicholas Taleb? Would love. Would you get him on the show? He would be a really interesting interview. Man's got a sharp mind as a scalpel. Got a mind as sharp as a scalpel. I do know who he is, and I was going to say I think we've reached out, but I can't swear that we have. But his name comes up often in the circles that I'm in, and I promise you that we will look into it if we haven't already, and even if we haven't, we'll follow up. Justin Trudeau called Andrew Scheer, the Conservative Party leader, Islamophobic for opposing Trudeau's plan to reintegrate ISIS fighters. We never knew how good we had it with Stephen Harper. I mean, Trudeau. Yes, he's handsome. He has nice hair and a nice smile. I mean, basically, Canada's going through its Obama thing. Like, can you say all the things that make it seem like you're a nice guy? Can you smile? Can you take selfies? Do you wear funky socks? You know, all of this stuff. It's all this fake nonsense. But meanwhile, when it's really important, what's happening? I mean, Canada has all sorts of problems with free speech right now, and this idiotic, this gender pronoun law. No one's telling you you should be respectful of people at every turn. That's what I try to be, but the government shouldn't be allowed to tell you what pronouns to use. Eventually, they'll make talking about Islam an offense. Of course, it won't be an offense if you talk about any other religion. The idea in this specific case of calling the Conservative Party leader Islamophobic because you didn't want to I mean, think about think about what he's saying. I haven't read anything on this specific article, so correct me if I'm wrong, but in effect, he's saying, if you're a Canadian citizen, right, born in Canada, you grew up on poutine and watching the Blue Jays, you're a Canadian citizen, you now go fight for ISIS. You are in effect, you are a jihadist. I mean, they are trying to recreate the caliphate there through violent means, okay? So they are trying to use the tools of jihad. Why would you let them back into your society? You're not an Islamophobe if you oppose that. You're sane. But this is what the left does with virtually everything these days. They consistently flip logic and reason on its head, and they have virtually no arguments. So think about it. Let's say there was some argument. Well, he was just confused, and he went there, and we're going to let him back. All right, I guess you could make that argument. Pretty thin, but I guess you can make that argument. But no, of course they don't even make that argument. The argument is, you see, you just don't want that guy who was halfway across the world killing innocent people and bombing holy sites. You just don't like him because you're an Islamophobe. I mean, it's so patently absurd. But the West, unfortunately, seems to be crumbling in this regard. And this is an area where I think Trump has been pretty good. For all the talk of the Muslim ban and all that, the Muslim ban, which by the way excluded over half of the world's Muslims because most populous Muslim countries weren't on there. This is where we're starting to, at least it seems like we're figuring out what's going on with immigration here. At least I'm for sensible immigration. We're all immigrants here in America. We're all descendants, if not immigrants ourselves. We're descendants of immigrants, unless you are Black, in which case, unless you're African American, meaning your ancestors were brought here as slaves, or you're Native American. But the huge bulk of us, and by the way, there are issues related to those two communities that we should be sensitive to. But that being said, the rest of us are immigrants. This is a nation of immigrants. It's a beautiful melting pot. So we should be for that as much as possible, but sensibly. And I don't think we've done it sensibly for a long time. And we are at a unique time now where ISIS is saying we want to send back fighters to kill people. We know that ISIS is letting Turkey, because Erdogan is basically an Islamist, use their open doors to just let fighters out of Syria into Turkey to go into Europe. So the West, and this is what Douglas Murray talks about with his book, The Strange Death of Europe, and I've talked about this concept with several other guests, but the West has to decide, will it stand up for itself, or will it be destroyed, not just because the Islamists are going to destroy it, or the jihadists, or not because of terrorism, but because of this self-rot, this corroded way of thinking that has permeated the left, that has permeated academia, that has permeated virtually every institution right now. Will we, the citizens of these countries, stop taking the bullshit? I think there's a lot of signs that we are, and it's why I'm actually hopeful for 2018, but I'm going to hold that until the end. Have you spoke to Austin Peterson lately? I have not. I hope that his campaign is going well. I was going to do an event with him last month, but then we just couldn't coordinate schedules. But I hope he's doing well. Look, Austin is a good guy. I'm proud to support him. He's the first candidate ever in a race that I ever publicly supported. We have disagreements on things. I'm pro-choice. He's pro-life. That's a pretty profound disagreement to have. But I think the basic ideas that he's talking about liberalism, about libertarianism in his case, but you know, he's got that classical liberal thing going too, about the individual, about states' rights, about local governance, about taking away the power from the executive, about getting the president out of every decision. If you don't like the president right now, your answer shouldn't be impeach him when they can't figure out a reason to. They're just running around going, we're going to impeach him. Why are you going to do it? We're going to, because we want to. No, that's not how this works. Take the power away from that office the way it was never intended to have the amount of power that it has. So I really like Austin, and I wish him well. How's your prep for interviewing Thomas Sowell? So as I said, I think we're doing it in September. We're in February. Sorry, we're just waiting for the last confirmation on that. They just sent me an advanced copy of his last book, so I have it sitting here. I got 2 great books the same day. I got the advanced copy of Thomas's new book, and then I got the advanced copy of Steven Pinker's new book. Pinker we're interviewing, I think, in the middle of February as well. So we're going to make that happen. Let's see. Are you watching the Alabama election? It's within 500 votes with 87% reporting. Holy schmoly. You know, I haven't talked about it too publicly because everything around this was so slimy and gross. I mean, look, this Roy Moore guy, look, I don't know what he did or didn't do. It sounds like there's enough evidence that he did do something, and certainly was accused by several people for doing some of this stuff with underage girls. Then it came out that part of the Gloria Allred yearbook was either forged or something. It's just all of the nonsense that makes people hate politics. But the irony is now that the Republicans of Alabama might be electing an accused child molester who seems, you know, the people of Alabama are always going Republican. So the fact that this is even so close shows you that they really don't like this Doug, what's his name? Doug Moore? I'm blanking on his name suddenly. But man, politics is upside down. If you would have said the party of Christian values 10 years ago was potentially, you know, electing this guy, and at the same time, it's like, did he do it? We're caught up right now. I mean, the danger of the Me Too thing. Look, the people that did that actually molested women or forced themselves on women or on men, by the way, or who did something to children, of course, need to be dealt with without question. The thing itself feels like it's turning into a little bit of a monster where accusations are just flying and they stick on some people and don't stick on others. So for example, if you really believe, you know, the idea now is believe all the accusers all the time. Well, okay, I like the spirit of that. But the problem is, if that's the way we're doing this, then Bill Clinton, 8 women accused Bill Clinton of raping them. 8 women. They were at the debates. Remember that? Juanita Roderick and the rest of them. 8 women. And they accuse Hillary of trying to silence them. So if you're really playing this fair, you can't be screaming about Roy Moore and then saying nothing about Bill Clinton. But politics has become so politicized, it has become so partisan, that people can be like, no, my child molester or my rapist is the good one. It's your rapist that needs to be dealt with. So it's a really shitty situation that we're in right now, and yeah, just a crappy situation. How about college football? You know, I'm not a huge college football fan. I'm not a huge football fan in general. Although on a Sunday I can always stop if I'm just flipping around. I can always stop and watch a game. But I'm not a huge football fan as a general rule. As for college football, I did watch one game this season. I watched the Penn State whiteout game because David went to Penn State, so we ate some wings and watched that one. Hi, Dave. Do you ever think that the left will wake up to the dangers of the regressive left? I'm thinking in particular of groups like Antifa and how the mainstream left seems to idolize them. I don't think the left is ever going to wake up. I think that the left as an institution, now, of course, when you talk about the left, I don't mean every single person in the left, but I'm talking the broader sort of intellectual and public part of the left. Okay, so I'm talking about the Bernie part of the left. I'm talking about the Elizabeth Warren part of the left. I'm talking about the Black Lives Matter part. I'm talking about the Antifa part. I'm talking about the Women's March part. I'm talking about virtually every political commentator that you see on television at this point. All of these people who love identity politics, who've learned nothing by the rise of Trump because all they had to do was be a little tolerant. They're the ones always screaming tolerance, and they don't act tolerant. Actually, I just shot my second PragerU video about 2 weeks ago, and it's about tolerance and who's truly the tolerant side. I think you guys are going to dig it. It'll probably be up in February. I don't think they're going to wake up. Everything that I've done on this show, really, especially the first year and a half or so, was was based in the idea of let's talk about what's wrong with the left so that we can make the left better. Let's make the Democrats the JFK, the John F. Kennedy Democrats that they're supposed to be. Where is John F. Kennedy? That's not what your country can do for you. That's what you can do for your country. That's the reverse. That is the 180 of what Bernie says. Bernie says the government should give you more. We should take some from more from others and give to you. That's the reverse of what JFK said. Martin Luther King, I want to live in a world where my children are judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. That is the reverse of postmodernism, leftism, Marxism. It is basing us all on those immutable characteristics, whether you're gay or black or Muslim or white or whatever it is. So unfortunately, I don't think they're going to stop. There's literally no signs. But if you've got a sign, I'd love to hear it. But the silver lining is this, and again, I want to get at the end, I'm going to get to my predictions for 2018. Which I'm sharing with you guys first before I do a direct message about it or anything. The silver lining is that while that entity and the media and all of that, the media in the broad sense, while that isn't going to change, it's just not. They're in too deep. And it's a corrosive way of thinking. It's a really tough, corrosive way of thinking. While that isn't going to change, what I do think is that more and more people will leave them. So right now, like if you look at like Lindsay Shepherd or any of the, or Brett Weinstein or Laura Kipnis or several of my guests who were lefties who then, had something happen that then got purged. It's not just that they get purged from the left, but the people that they influence, you know what I mean? Like Lindsay became basically a star overnight. We had a little something to do with that. I'm very proud of that. Brett is now out there every day doing public speeches and talking to people. It's not just that you purge these three people. You actually purge all of the people who are influenced by them. Not all of them, but you get a good percentage of them. So I'm very hopeful that people like you, and you guys in particular, because you guys, not only have you woken up in your own way, but you put your money where your mouth is. I mean, some of you, all of our content is free. We do these bonus things like this, but you guys are putting your money where your mouth is because you help us produce this show so that it can get out to all sorts of other people who don't pay. I mean, that's part of the bargain of you paying for this. And hopefully that means in your mind, you think that the ideas that we're talking about here are important. I think part of the reason that the show blew up the way it did this year and the reason that, I can't walk into the supermarket anymore without getting recognized is because we're talking about things in an honest way. We're having difficult conversations and I'm trying to hear people, and I'm evolving along with this. I really am. I still am. I obviously at the beginning of it, when I first sat down with Sam Harris, there was a certain evolution there, but I still am evolving with all of this. And I'm still trying to build alliances and have an ability to be friends with Ben Shapiro on one hand and Sam Harris on another, guys who think completely the reverse on the most existential questions of belief, who disagree on virtually everything politically too. And I like both of them. And we had dinner with the two of them and Eric in San Francisco, Eric Weinstein, a couple of days ago. And we had a great time. Actually. And by the way, some of you may have seen this, but Sam had a sit down with Ben Shapiro and Eric Weinstein live in San Francisco. I think the audio will be on Sam's podcast probably in the next couple of days. But it was nice for me to even be in the audience for that. It was actually nice. I'm usually on the other side of it where I'm on the stage, but it was nice to just sit there, and it was cool. Many people in the crowd knew me through Sam. So it was nice to be like amongst the people watching this and watching three people who I truly admire, who I truly can learn from. I think Eric Weinstein, for the record, was particularly insightful and really, really great. So I hope you guys will get a chance to check that out. Dave, my apologies for this, but the most deplorable thing you've ever said is The Force Awakens was a good movie. Rogue One saved the series. I wish I had your name here. They're just typing like the questions to me like this because I'd like to address you by name, but no, you're very confused, and I appreciate it, and I've heard this line of thinking that somehow Rogue One was better than Force Awakens. Rogue One was, in my opinion, the worst of all the Star Wars movies. It had no magic. It had no mystery. It had no force. You don't remember any of the characters' names. Jyn Erso. Okay, that's it. I don't know any of the rest of the characters' names. What the hell was Forrest Whitaker's character? What was that? Yes, there was a beautiful moment with Darth Vader at the end, in Darth Vader badass form, and we've never really seen him at the peak of his powers, right? So that was cool. But the movie, you didn't really care about any of the characters. Everyone dies at the end, and you're like, all right. What the movie needed to be, David said this to me when we walked out, and I think he's completely right. It should have been a chase movie. like just any old car chase movie where at the beginning the rebels get the plans at the beginning, and the whole movie should have been about Darth Vader slaughtering his way throughout the universe trying to get the plans, which he does not get at the end. But you make it a heart-pounding chase movie of Vader at his peak. That would have been awesome. This, there was just no heart to it. Force Awakens, I get it, a little derivative, no doubt, but they had to reset the entire series, make it fun, bring those characters back, bring those actors back, give us new stories. Kylo Ren is really cool. We're going to find out probably in this next movie, is Snoke Darth Plagueis, who was the one that taught Palpatine? I mean, there's a lot that they did there that I really liked. And it felt good. I know there are some reasons people didn't like it, but come on now. Adam Proctor, you were the Star Wars guy. We're gonna have to talk separately, Adam Proctor. Let's see. Hi, Dave. Might be a bit much for how tired you are, but here goes. I appreciate the concession there. You talk a lot about your political philosophy, classical liberalism, and have talked with different moral philosophers. So I'm curious what you'd consider your moral philosophy, or have you defined it in some way? I love that question. I am kind of beat to go in too deep into that. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. We have Michael Shermer coming back, I think for the second show in January. So it's Ben Shapiro live show. Oop, there I go. I'm giving it away right now. You guys are now the first to know that our first show of 2018 on January 3rd is a live stream with Ben Shapiro. We're gonna do a couple hours together, and I'm psyched. I'm psyched to do it. And there's a lot that I want to talk to him about, involving some of the stuff that I just heard him talk about with Sam Harris. Ben believes in free will. Sam doesn't. We'll talk about all sorts of things. The second show that we're doing of the new year will be with Michael Shermer. I'm pretty sure it's the second show. And I will discuss this with him because I have his book right here. I have many of his books, actually. He's got 3 books on the shelf here. But The Moral Arc is one of his books. So your question really is, outside of classical liberalism, which is a political system, how do you get your beliefs? That's what you're asking me. So here's where I would say that one of the most enjoyable things that I did this past season this past year on the show in 2017 was the sit down that I did with Shermer and Prager. Shermer, who comes at morality from a liberal secular place. That's the place that I come from it. And Prager, who comes at it from a Judeo-Christian, a place of belief. Now, what I loved about the conversation was that I saw how much they actually agreed on things. So Prager, who comes from a religious place, made it very clear that he believes that Michael Shermer is an absolutely moral person, and that there's no reason that he can't be moral within Enlightenment values. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Turn the cheek. The basics for having to live in a society, using your own rational self-interest to build a society that you want to live in. He acknowledged that about Michael, while at the same time saying that for him, his belief on that's sort of the micro level, but on the macro sense, on the bigger sense, that society needs the sort of truths that religion provides in the sense of morality, 10 Commandments, I think is specifically what he was talking about, to really have a functional society. I think there's an interesting argument there, and it's hard to argue against because most societies that have come from the Judeo-Christian way of thinking have been the most successful and freest societies. I don't know that there's been a society built purely on secular morality that has really stood the test of time. But I'd love to discuss this further. I would say that, probably I fall a little bit between. I mean, that's just the way my personality is. I think I fall a little bit between that, where I believe that I'm not killing anybody because the 10 Commandments says don't kill anybody. I'm not killing them because I know that it's the wrong thing to do. I think if we were to go through all the 10 Commandments, that you would find that not all of them would even be allowed to be laws. Don't covet thy neighbor's wife. You can covet all you want. You can't break into the house and attack her. You can't accost her on the street, but you can covet the shit out of her. So some of these things cannot be put into law. So I would say that I believe that my morality comes from a constant attempt to renew those Enlightenment values through how I live. That being said, as someone that grew up in a Judeo-Christian society, a lot of the sort of bigger moral pieces around that are sort of put on you by some sort of religious thing, even if you're not a believer. So it's a great rich place to talk. I hope that wasn't too circular in logic. I am a little beat here, but I promise I'll talk about that with Michael, and I'll flesh out my thoughts on it a little bit more so I can be a little more direct. All right, I'm hearing that Doug Jones beat Roy Moore. So we shall see. In effect, I see that as a defeat for Trump. And it's a really strange move now. So now Alabama's got a Democratic senator, so we shall see about that. Let's see, could you bring on Brendan O'Neill and Sargon of Akkad together to debate Marxism? So that's an interesting one. I would love to do that. I will gladly reach out to both of them. That's really interesting because, you know, if you watch, first off, the interview with O'Neill that we just did was really one of my favorite interviews of the year because he so clearly and cleanly can lay out the political philosophies that we're talking about, from Marxism to classical liberalism and the rest. Not only can he do that, but he changes, by his own existence, he changes some of the way we think about these words. So he calls himself the libertarian Marxist. I don't want to repeat the entire interview right now, but those things sort of seem like they're at odds, don't they? And I sort of got him to admit that they are at odds. Like, it's almost an impossible. He kind of admitted, he says it about himself in a way because he's almost trolling the trolls in a certain way. So it's funny, you're asking me to have Sargon and him debate. The implication being, well, he's a Marxist and Sargon hates Marxists. I don't know that Brendan's really, he's not, he's more of a libertarian than he is a Marxist. He's more of a classical liberal than he is, but I would be happy to have a conversation with the two of them. I mean, bright minds that know their way of thinking and are really great. Have you ever heard of Isabel Patterson or Rose Wilder Lane? They were compatriots and sometimes friends of Ayn Rand, though they were theists. You know, I haven't heard of either one of them, but I will say this related to belief and objectivism and Ayn Rand. And again, we're going to get into this a lot more on Friday with Rucka. I've been to, you know, the Ayn Rand Institute funds some of the college gigs that I've done. So I've gone around with Brett Weinstein. We went to Harvard. I went with Jordan Peterson to Clemson. I've done USC with Colin Moriarty and a few others. They don't tell us what to say. They say, just do your thing. We just like your belief in free speech. And the people in the organization that I've met actually are all really great. Some of them are theists. Some of them are believers and are some, you know, so even though Ayn Rand herself was staunchly against religion, some of the people that enjoy her work now actually, or probably people who consider themselves objectivists themselves, aren't necessarily non-believers. So they were actually a pretty tolerant group of people. When I did the thing with Colin at USC, that was the day that Der Spiegel, the biggest magazine in Germany, spent the day here in my studio, where I interviewed Yasmin Mohammed and Faisal Saeed Al-Mattar, two of my good friends now and great fighters for freedom. She was married to a member of Al-Qaeda. His brother was killed under the Saddam regime, and they're just good, great people who love America for all the right reasons. I do 2 interviews with them, and then I go do a free speech rally with Colin, a free speech talk with Colin over at USC, sponsored by ARI, the Ayn Rand Institute. And Der Spiegel writes that I was attending a far-right alt-right event, and there were security guards armed at the door. I mean, you can watch the video. It's online. It's on our channel. It's me, Colin, and Steve Simpson from ARI. It was great. There's a lot of laughs. We took questions from everybody. There was interesting diversity there. It was fun. It's on our channel. You can find it. But Der Spiegel made it sound like I was at a hate rally, and they put me on the cover of Der Spiegel online. And now, if I ever went to Germany, I could go to Germany and someone could just punch me in the face. You're a freaking Nazi. Meanwhile, I had actual Holocaust survivors in my family and people that were killed by Nazis. But yada yada yada. Okay. Let's see. Ever heard of the Schulz method of voting, ranked voting? And do you have some thoughts on it? I think it'd fix the issue in Alabama if 2 Republicans were on the ballot. I actually am not familiar with the method, so I'm going to have to do a little Googling on the method, and then I can address that next time. While on the topic of guests, this is kind of out of left field, but is there any chance you could bring on conservative vegan Corey McCarthy? He's a bodybuilder with a lot to say. He's a conservative vegan. That seems kind of interesting, first off. And he's a bodybuilder with a lot to say. A conservative vegan bodybuilder? How's he getting all that protein? This guy's eating a lot of satay, a lot of soy. Is he a soy boy, as they say? I will check into it. I will check into it. You know, it's funny when we do this this Patreon day, like today, all day long, that I'm talking to people, and either in the one-on-ones or in the smaller groups, whatever it is, people are always giving me lists of names. So, like, even though we have a couple shows booked out in January, we've got just like an endless list of names to look into, which is pretty great. I mean, you guys act as my bookers. In the old days, shows like this, we'd have to pay bookers like a shit ton of money every month. You'd have them on retainer for $5 grand or something. so that they could send guests your way. And it's like, now you guys do it as much as I do. It's pretty great. We have to do the legwork to get them and coordinate it. But you guys have pointed us in the right direction almost without fail. Oh, and I'll give you another hint of, or let's shift for just a second. I see there's some more questions here. I'll get to them in a sec. So I want to tell you a little bit about my thoughts for 2018. So first off, I told you we're kicking off the year with Shapiro and then Shermer. We've got Thomas Sowell coming. We've got Steven Pinker. I really think this is going to be the biggest and most badass year that we've got. So on just a personal note and sort of where my head's at, I'm actually quite hopeful for the way things are going right now. I know common knowledge would have you believe that everyone hates each other more and everyone's horrible and we're all whatever and everything's going to hell and all that. There's a lot of good signs. The economy is doing really well right now. Consumer confidence is really high. For all the flaws with Trump, and there are many, I don't sense that he wants to go to extra wars. I think he actually, even though a lot of people, conventional thinking would tell you that all our allies are quaking in their boots about him, I actually think he's reset some things in the Middle East and otherwise, where America is actually starting to stand up for itself again. Where, I think the biggest flaw in Obama's presidency, which I've mentioned before, was the Syria red line thing. You can't set a red line, have it cross, and then do nothing. It erodes your deterrence with your enemies, and it erodes confidence with your friends. So I'm quite hopeful, actually, for the way things are going. I think this is going to be an interesting year related to cryptocurrency. I think that there's an exhaustion with calling everyone racist and bigot and homophobe and all the rest of it. And I think that it's going to lead to, and what I want to devote the next year of the show to, is some sense making. Eric Weinstein talks about communal sense making, and that's what we miss. And that's what I want to devote the show to. I want the show to grow as a home now for people who want to make some sense going forward. And if you're willing to, in the case of, say, me and Shapiro, disagree on abortion, but agree that we want to live in the same society and how do we make it the best society possible, then I'll talk to you. And I'm going to keep pushing, having those conversations. So I think the real question right now is, how bad does it have to get before it gets getting better, right? Like, this postmodern nonsense isn't going anywhere. Sadly, the Democrats are going in on all this leftist stuff. How bad does that have to go? Does something really horrible have to happen? I don't even know what I mean by that. But does something terrible have to happen until more people wake up? I don't know. But what I do know is the amount of people being purged to the center now, or a little right, or whatever you want to call it, the amount of people that's happening to is tremendous right now. And I want to be hopefully one of the beacons of sense making for them. I want to show them there's a home for you. We don't have all the answers. We don't have many politicians we like that are doing things the way we'd like them done. But if you believe in limited government, if you believe in the individual, if you believe in yourself, if you believe that you don't deserve something just because someone's got more than you, Joe Rogan has more subscribers than we have, and he makes a lot more money than I do. We're in the same business. Do I deserve some of his money? I think not. I'd like it, but pretty sure that's not going to happen. So I think we can do a lot of good this year, and that's why I am hopeful for it. I'm going to lay out my predictions in my first DM of 2018. I called in my first DM of 2017. I called 2016. I think it was either my first DM of 2017 or my last DM of 2016. I called 2016 the year of fake outrage, because everyone was just fake outraged all the time, and I predicted that 2017 would be the year of misguided anger. And I think I really hit that one on the head from about a year ago right now. I said that this whole year will be about misguided anger, that if you keep, in effect, if the left won't stop doing this nonsense and you keep saying that this guy is Hitler and all of this nonsense, that your anger is going to just be spouting off in every which way. I think this year was a tremendous proof of concept for my theory there, that this was the year of misguided anger. And so 2018, I don't know exactly what I'm going to say yet, but I am giving you guys a little hint on this. I think it's going to be the year of the return of some sense making. It's going to take a while, and I don't know when it's going to kick in, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I think there's going to be a little bit of a return. I think there is an exhaustion of people feeling like they're being dumbed down, idiots being talked to by morons and lied to by politicians and manipulated by the media. And I think people are ready for some sense. And I'll flesh that thought out a little bit more at the beginning of the year. Let's see. Damn it, Dave, I had the election in Alabama on TiVo and you spoiled the results. Glad more went down, but damn it, spoilers. That's hilarious. Did you really have it on TiVo, an election in Alabama? That's kind of funny. Let's see. How about Brian Lunduke or Karen Sandler as guests to talk about the importance of open software and technology in the current world landscape? I don't know either one of them particularly, but that's a great idea. So I definitely want to do more on. You know, we did our first show just 2-3 weeks ago with Roger Ver on Bitcoin and what he really likes, Bitcoin Cash. I'm fascinated by the cryptocurrency conversation. I'm sure you guys all know. I mean, Bitcoin is like through the roof right now. We actually take Bitcoin one-time donations. We didn't do it for a long time, and people kept saying, "Can I donate Bitcoin? Can I donate Bitcoin?" We didn't do it. We finally did it about 6 months ago. And we've gotten a little, you know, every few weeks or whatever it is, someone will put in a 0.006, you know. So I'm not even sure what we have at the moment, but we've got a little something there, and maybe I can diversify that. I know a lot of people are talking about Ethereum right now and talking about Litecoin, and there's a couple others. So I need to do a little. Actually, as we slowly shut down for the end of the year, I'm going to try to take a little time to learn a little bit more about this in general. Let's see. Hey, Dave, I was going to ask you about this in our chat, but I forgot. Has there been any discussion on creating a Rubin Report supporter Discord channel? I've been looking forward to more info ever since you said it was a possibility last month. No doubt your team is very busy. I'd be willing to volunteer. This is from Dog Jones, I know. Let's see. All right, and he gave me a few other things here. Quote from C.S. Lewis. You know, I'll just read it. If you and I want to evade some truly dangerous duty, the best plan is to find 2 or 3 other cowards and do our shirking in company. It's wonderful how little discomfort you'll feel when we've talked it over and laughed all together. Equally, if we have to stand out against real evil, to risk embarrassment and jeers and the possible loss of a job, the best plan is to get together with 2 or 3 honest men. The ordeal will become amazingly less formidable. Friends in a world to give us moral support or immoral support. That's C.S. Lewis. I'm not quite sure how that's related to the Discord thing. I think we are going to do it. Hopefully in these next weeks as I do a little research on Bitcoin to wrap the year, because this is my last thing on camera for 2017, because we've got the 5 shows for this week. We taped with Ken Stern for the week after. We're doing a little retrospective during Christmas week. I don't think you guys need more politics during the holidays. So I'm going to have a little bit of time. And one of the things we're going to do is we need to recategorize and refix and rejigger, so to speak, our entire Patreon layout. You know, a lot has changed since we launched on here, and we need to explain to people sort of how we're moving forward, how we're growing, what are some of the things we want to do, change some of the branding, all of that stuff. And then I think Discord will be a piece of that. There you go. What's the latest on your book? So hopefully now in this next 2 weeks, I can start to circle back to it. I didn't realize how busy my fall was going to be. I can't believe right now it's the end of December, basically. I cannot believe that it was only August, it was only just a couple months ago where I was able to get off the grid and really work on it. And now it's been just a tougher slog to try to find the right times to do it. Pete Boghossian, God bless him, irony to say about an atheist, but he texts me all the time. You're working on the book today, you're working on the book today, you got to work on the book today, get to the book today. Yeah, I need a little more time on that. One of the things I've been sort of struggling with is, you know, you don't want to write a book that's too topical because it will be sort of just a little moment in time that, you know, I want something that will stand the test of time. So I want something that's evergreen, as they say, and not something that's just sort of captures a moment, but then it's really lost in a greater context. So that's what I've kind of been struggling with. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Fear not. I think a couple of questions might have just disappeared somewhere. Does anyone in the chat follow YouTube or just thinking out loud? I'd love to see her on YouTube Week one of these years, as she's a nice counterpoint to Red Pill Black. I don't know her actually, but I'm always interested. I mean, people really dig this YouTube Week, and I think this one that we're doing this week is particularly good. So I'll be happy to check her out and see when we can do that next. I also, by the way, I want to do another fan show soon. Maybe we can make that happen. I'm guessing it takes a while. It really takes a ton of coordination to get 20 people in often 20 different time zones, or at least 20 different countries, to shoot them all in a day. I think we can probably aim for that in March. 2 of the slots out of the 18 will be for patrons. I forget what level that's at. You guys can check in there. But 2 slots will be for you guys specifically. It's sort of the Willy Wonka's golden ticket of that. Thanks for having Jacqueline Glenn on. Love her and you. It was so awesome seeing you guys chatting. Well, thank you. You know, Jacqueline used to do my show on the Young Turks a long time ago when we were doing a panel show, a little more pop culture and clickbaity and whatever else it is that we were doing over there. And it was so nice to see her. I mean, I said this to her in the interview, but it was so nice to see her because I'd only seen her once in the last maybe 2 years or so. We had a quick dinner one night with a few other people. But she really, it struck me like, oh, she's really come into herself. She seemed really confident about what she was saying, what she was thinking. And it's just nice to see an evolution in somebody when you don't see them for a while and then you see them again and you can kind of just see it in their eyes. Like, oh, you know what you think. You are trying to learn how to think even more and learn about things that you don't know about. So it was really nice to see her. Dave, how about taking a trip to China and interview some people here? I'm in Beijing and can set you up. Well, that would be awesome. I would absolutely love to go to China. So basically the countries that I haven't been to that I really want to go to, although there's many, but the top few right now for me are Australia, Japan, and I'd put probably China and maybe like New Zealand in the next category. If you can set it up, I don't know what that means. Like basically I don't need to break the bank to go to China, but I just need, costs and stuff taken care of. Maybe we can find some speaking gigs that I can do there. And maybe I can interview some Chinese celebrities or politicians or something. If you have some connections, I would love to do it. Why don't you drop me a line, dave@rubinreport.com. There, I just said my email address. You guys are my exclusive Patreon people. Just be respectful of it, please. And let's see if we could set something up. Will you have Andy Worski on or Shoe on Head? Well, Shoe on Head, we were supposed to have her on for the last YouTube week that we did. She was going to come on with her boyfriend, Armored Skeptic. But then at the last minute, I think that day, maybe the day before, she decided that she wasn't that comfortable doing it. Or I don't know what her reasons were, but she seems like a totally lovely girl. So yeah, I'd be happy to have her on. Andy Worski, I don't know him that much. I know he did the video about Red Pill Black. I honestly don't know that much about him, but we've got the list of academics we want. We've got just sort of the general list of people that you guys send us. We've got the list of YouTubers and the whole thing. So, we're doing it, people. We're doing it. All right, we got 7 minutes left. It is 7:53 p.m. I'm going to pause and drink a sip of water. Oh man, I needed that. You ever have one of those nights, like just one of those nights where I guess I thought I was drunk, but not like stupid drunk. Like I was on the floor at the end of the night, literally laying in the kitchen floor. That's pretty drunk. It was definitely the edible. I got to talk to the edible person that brought the edibles, find out what was what. Anyway, so as we're wrapping up this year with these last few minutes, feel free to throw in a couple of other questions. But as we're wrapping up this year, truly, I'm so thankful for you guys. Like we did it. Like 2017 was really the year we moved into this house in November of 2016, built this studio out for about a month in November, and really then, and then the holidays kick in December. So in my view, everything that has exploded with everything that we're doing started in 2017. This last year has really been the best and most rewarding year of my life. We built a home studio, like a state, I know I've showed this to you guys before, but like, a really great state-of-the-art home studio. The control room's on the other side with all the monitors, and that's where Amira and David are during the show. And, we've got all pro lighting and, there's all sorts of equipment and things behind this fake wall behind me and sound stuff and all that good stuff. And this is fully because you guys let us do it. And as I said, because you guys do it, I was able to say no to deals that I probably would have had to take in other ways. We're able to, we're going to continue to do a few little partnerships here and there when we can, when it feels right, but I have no need to do it. Like I won't do anything out of desperation. I actually don't need much more. I want this to grow, and I want to, I've still got now, a certain amount of debt on my head to get into here in the first place. We'll deal with that. We'll deal with that. And you guys have helped me do this. So I'm truly I'm just like filled with gratitude really at the end of this year. I know Sam Harris and Ben Shapiro just had their discussion on free will. Have you considered hosting them for a discussion of free speech and politics. So ironically, I had contacted both of them maybe over the summer and said, I'd love to host the conversation here. At that time, Sam was really busy with travel. Ben actually did agree to do it. So yeah, I will invite them both here to do it, because I think if anything, and you'll hear this when you listen to the podcast, it was a tough spot that Sam was in, actually, because, you know, people are there. It's his podcast, right? So there's about 1,000 people there. It was a great theater, maybe more than 1,000. A lot of people were there. Sam is sitting in the middle, and Ben is sitting to his right. Eric is sitting to his left, and Sam is sort of moderating, but also debating. That's a tough situation to be in. So, like, for me, for example, like, obviously I like moderating. Now, the Blair White and Candace Owens thing was a special thing that didn't necessarily bring out the best in any of us, but Save Dave did trend on Twitter. It's the first time I've trended on Twitter, and the memes were worth it. But point being is, I was the moderator of that. They were the panelists. It's hard to be both, right? Because to be the moderator, you have to make sure, well, everyone gets their time to talk. You have to actually be able to really listen so that you know where the next way to go is. But if you're the moderator and the panelist, well, now you throw a question to somebody, you also have to be ready with your own argument on that. And Sam was actually quite good at it. I'm just saying, generally speaking, it's a tough position to take, to do both of those things. So I was thinking often during the thing that I wish I was on stage. As I said, it was really nice to be there, and they sort of, you know, it was totally respectful and really enjoyable. And I think people were thrilled to see them together. And by the way, Sam's audience, which obviously, you know, is not a religious audience per se, and most of them are probably Democrats or maybe disaffected liberals or something, but mostly would not identify, I don't think, as conservative. They gave Ben, when Ben came out, it was a surprise, and he got a nice big round of applause, and they got a standing ovation at the end. So it was really done in the right spirit. So I really did enjoy it. But yes, I would love to have them here where I can focus on being the moderator and they can focus on their specific ideas. That being said, I would also happily do something with any of them where I wasn't the moderator, and I'll gladly go up there and defend my ideas as well. That's just something else. I think, you know, my role at the moment is usually to be brought in as the moderator of these things, but I like being on the other side of it. And, you know, it's nice that actually I'm, you know, invited to so many schools now, and sometimes I moderate things. Sometimes I'll give an hour speech or something, which I usually do mostly off the top of my head, which probably has a little something to do with talking to you guys like this. Like, I'm actually quite comfortable talking and sharing my thoughts on things. And because of that, it makes it easier when I do these live things. So yeah, I'm doing this one Palm Beach thing at the end of the year, and then that's it. And then I have a bunch of things coming up in the new year. We will get some sort of calendar up. We should have a calendar up on the website that gives you my speaking tour, because even if I'm at a school that you're not allowed, or not allowed, if you've been banned from the school, if you know, if you're not a student or whatever, sometimes these are student only events, but you know, I can try to do some meet and greets and that kind of stuff. And hopefully there'll be a little more international travel this year. Let's make that China thing happen. My agents are working on something in Australia. I know that a couple schools in the UK want me to get out there. There's a school in Montreal. I may do something with Gad Sad. So I'm happy to bounce around, and you know, we're in the thick of it right now. It's inspiring and exhausting and wonderful and overwhelming and all that stuff. But I really, 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 truly believe that we're making a dent in the conversation. I know we are. There's no doubt that we are. And you guys are a huge piece of making that engine happen. So it's just about 8 o'clock. I hope that this 2017, you being part of this, what we do here, I hope that you're as fulfilled by it and feeling good about that you put your money to a good cause, because I can tell you that I truly am. I'm really proud of what we've done. I think in the next coming years, you know, I'll continue to hopefully get better at what I do. I think we'll hopefully continue to be an important piece of this conversation and get higher profile guests, maybe take the show on the road a little bit more. You know, we've done some of these events live streamed, like with Jordan and with Brett, and I hope to continue doing that kind of stuff, and just keep being a piece of this puzzle. You know, while everyone's crazed right now, there's so much richness happening. Think about your own life, the own conversations you're having. Even if you have got certain people angry at you for your political beliefs, everyone, including you watching this right now, I would virtually bet that every single one of you is reevaluating your own beliefs. You're not, because you don't know what you believe, but you're starting to see that allies are in places that you wouldn't have thought they were. The enemy, intellectual enemy, is maybe not who you thought it was. That's a beautiful, rich place. So that's why I think we will get to some sense making in this year. I don't know when it's going to happen. I'll do my first direct message about it. But I will keep trying, and I hope you will keep trying. I thank you guys for your patronage this past year and being part of what we do and sharing the videos and all that stuff and being nice to me when you see me on the street and all that. So thank you, and I am going to bed. Good night.